Hello, hello. This is alertwolf here to bring you my last review of the night. Um, and this one is to Lincoln. This is a movie review on Lincoln. Um, it's funny. The second Lincoln movie to come out this year, and I gotta say I love both Lincoln movies. Um, but just one you can't take seriously as a historical drama though, and the other one you can. And that one was clearly the vampire. No, 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 no. This is the better of the two, honestly. And this one, I got to see the running time was about 2.5 hours. It says 2 hours and 29 minutes. If, and and watching the film, you didn't feel the measure of time. You know what I mean? It didn't feel like 2.5 hours. Now, having said this, this film primarily focuses on um, the historical events that take place between the end of the Civil War and the passing of the 13th Amendment. Now, I guess if you didn't see the film and you don't know your history, the fact that I said passing may ruin it for you. Um, but honestly, this is the only time you're gonna see me divulge a secret about the ending or the plot or whatever it is in a movie. But I'm just gonna assume, being it's a historical narrative, that you already knew this, considering we all already know that what happens. Um, so having said that, this movie was great. I think I mean it's just really good. Daniel Day Lewis played Abraham Lincoln. I mean, with the makeup on him, you couldn't even tell it was him. His voice, he was doing a lighter pitched voice, and you could hear his voice in the role, but it you could hear his voice, but it clearly didn't sound like him normally, and it added to just the character piece that it was. Um, again, this is gonna be a little different because what I said is basically the story of really what happens. This is all about how he wanted to get this 13th Amendment passed, how he got it passed, and how he was able to bring an end to the Civil War. Um, and this really showcases the type of person he was really well. It's a great historical piece. Everybody in the movie, and you're always surprised because other than Sally Fields, I had forgotten who else was. And obviously, she plays his wife. I'd forgotten who else was in this movie. So in watching it, I was always pleasantly surprised when I noticed an actor from somebody or somewhere and playing in this movie, and everybody was good in it. There wasn't a single person that was bad. Tommy Lee Jones was amazing in the movie, um, uh, playing the congressman from Pennsylvania, and who was, give me a second, Thaddeus Stevens, and basically it's just a window into that time period. Um, the performance, I thought, from Daniel Day Lewis was so great that you could feel the greatness of the man through his performance. Um, you could feel the weight of the presidency and they did a tremendous job with that makeup on him. And throughout the film, he's being aged, and as the weight of the war bears down on him, and you really felt that uh, coming through the role. You know, he wasn't a perfect man, and he did some things that he wasn't too proud of, but he he did them all in the sake of winning the war, freeing slaves, ending slavery. And so, you know, it was just such a powerful piece. I mean, you know, his the way he was portrayed, like you wouldn't know it. You know, the man likes to tell a lot of stories and parables, and almost Christ-like. I mean, I'm not gonna go as far as say Abraham Lincoln was Christ. You know, I'm not going that far, but it was very similar. You know, the way he was constantly just that's how he would talk to people. He was telling them stories. You know, and some of the stories were pretty hilarious. And he was a funny guy. But he spoke very powerfully, very eloquently, and very softly, too. And you know, he knew the war was coming to an end, and he needed to wrap up the war correctly. And it also shows you into the life of the president where how different things are before and after his death, because well, just the stark contrast. They show that he used to people just regular people would just come in and talk to him and give him their grievances, almost like the story of Solomon almost. So the regular people would be able to see him, and he would talk to them, and he would try to help them out. I mean, this is a guy that would walk around DC freely, obviously unescorted. I mean, he would visit the military hospital. He would visit the battlefields, or not so much the battlefield, but the camps. He would talk to the soldiers, both black and white, uh, and he, you know, he was uh, he was very beloved by the people. I mean, obviously not the South, but but from the North, he was very beloved. Um, and he had been reelected, and you know, so this was very centrally driven on this passion to get it done, to end the war the right way. And very early on in the film, with the Secretary of State, he figures out what he means because he asks a common person if they would want their senator or congressman, or not senator, congressman. Um, and the reason why the difference between I say senator and Congress, the 13th Amendment had already passed in the Senate but failed in the House. So this is all about a House vote. I mean, it hadn't been brought up to vote, but it had been knocked down before. The Republicans had just come off a win, but it's before, just like we are now, it's before the next session comes in. But, you know, there are a lot of lame duck Democrats in there. And the reason for that is because, you know, they're about to lose their seats anyway. So this is what's going on. The Republican Party is in charge. They have the presidency. Obviously, the first Republican president was Abraham Lincoln, and they have the House. Now the split is, well, at least with the Republicans and people they call radical, like Tommy Lee Jones is, just to get to the politics of the issue. The split is Republicans in general don't like slavery, but whereas they may be anti-slavery, only the radicals are abolitionists. Basically, they want to. The radicals want to end slavery. See blacks have complete, not just blacks, but every man and woman have complete rights. You know, voting, uh, everybody equal. You know, men and women. And that's what their goal was on a federal, national level. You know, I mean, like in Jersey, women have always had the right to vote, but you know, that's just Jersey, and that, you know, every state is specifically different. So I'm just using that example. That wasn't in the movie. I'm just saying they wanted to do things on a federal level. That was their ultimate goal, and so you had basically they would be considered the radical right. Uh, it's funny to think about it, but the radical right was would have been was considered the radical right was the people who thought that everybody should have equal rights, you know, and the regular right just thought that slavery was bad, and the left, which would be the Democrats, thought that slavery was necessary and white men were superior to every other race on the planet, including females and blacks, obviously. So that's the political landscape, and it was all about, by hook or crook, whatever. The president was fine getting in the areas of gray. He never wanted to cross the line to black. You know what I'm saying? But he was fine dealing in shades of gray, whatever it took to get this done. And the personal strifes that he went through with his wife and stuff like that, and the fact that he really did love her, and how hard the death of their of one of their sons, which they don't, happened earlier in his life, affected, or earlier in the presidency, affected them. So you also have the introduction of his eldest son, who comes home and he wants to join the military. There's that issues going on as well. He is his youngest son there, and so it's all about. Again, it was all about the weight of and the task he had to get done with the time period he had. And again, 2.5 hours flew by. The pacing was very good in the movie. I mean, beginning, lots of time kind of rushed by a little bit on you, and there were some big dates that would follow, but the pacing was very good. Again, you didn't realize you were in the theater watching a 2.5 hour movie. You just thought you were just watching the movie. And again, because everybody, and I mean everybody, from like the main supporting actors to like the bit players with a few lines, really, really did their job on this one. I mean, Steven Spielberg did a phenomenal job. I mean, when you saw Battlefields, there was horror there. There was some gore. I mean, but at the same time, and when you saw the fighting, you got a sense of its brutality. In the opening of the movie, you got to see a battle. You got a sense of its brutality. It didn't over... It was shocking, but it didn't overpower the movie. It didn't become... The gore didn't become the focus of the scene so much so that for gore's sake, if you get what I'm trying to say. Like, the brutality was there to show you the shocking brutality of this war, but the gore wasn't violent for violence sake, and you didn't get that impression, and it didn't take over in that way. But I think I'm talking enough about this movie. Basically, I'm going to give this movie a 5 out of 5. I think eventually this movie is going to be shown in history classrooms all across the country for years and years to come in high school, and I think it should be very good. Everybody should go see this film, and it's really good. It really gives you some perspective on how this man was. And even the way they portrayed his death in the movie, very classy, interesting take on it. I'm not going to give it away, but I liked it. I thought it was well done, and it was well done, and it still ripped your heart out. You felt when he passed, you felt the weight of this man going. You know what I mean? And because of how well it was played, you had an emotional attachment. Even if everybody has an attachment to this guy because of who he was historically, but in the movie, you had an emotional attachment. So when he went, you felt it. Now, I can't say enough about this movie, but 5 out of 5. Like I said, everybody should go see it. So that being said, click it up if you like it, comment if you must, subscribe if you can, and this is Alert Wolf signing out.